This is English Conversation Podcast. Hey there, English learners. Welcome back to English Conversation Podcast.
Hi, everyone. I'm Wendy, and this is my co-host, Jim. We're super excited to have you with us today.
That's right. And you know what? Today's episode is going to be incredibly useful. We're diving into something you'll encounter everywhere, daily conversations.
Exactly. We've created two authentic conversations that you're definitely going to hear in real life. Whether you're at a coffee shop, talking to neighbors, or just chatting with friends, these are the kinds of exchanges that happen every single day.
And here's what makes this episode special. After listening to these conversations, we'll break them down together. We'll explore the vocabulary, the natural expressions, and those little phrases that native speakers use all the time. Before we jump in, we want to remind you of something important. Learning English is a journey, and every step you take matters.
Absolutely. Whether you're just starting out or you've been studying for years, remember that progress happens one conversation at a time. You're already doing something amazing by listening to this podcast.
So grab your headphones, get comfortable, and let's explore these everyday conversations together. Trust us, by the end of this episode, you'll feel much more confident about those daily chats in English.
Ready? Let's get started with our first conversation.
Wow, that was a fantastic example of a real supermarket conversation. Did you notice how naturally it flowed, Wendy?
Absolutely, and there's so much we can learn from it. Let's start with how Sarah asked for help. She said, "Excuse me, could you help me find something?" That's excellent. It's polite, direct, and gets straight to the point.
Exactly. And here's a key tip for our listeners. When asking for help in a store, always start with "excuse me" or "sorry to bother you." Never just say "where is" without any politeness marker. It can sound rude.
Great point. I also loved how the employee responded with, "Of course, I'd be happy to assist you." Notice he didn't just say yes or "what do you need?" He used enthusiastic language that made Sarah feel welcome.
That brings us to some essential supermarket vocabulary. Sarah used locate instead of just find. That's more sophisticated. She also said she was wandering around and couldn't spot the section. These verbs make your English sound more natural than just saying, "I can't find it."
And did you catch the phrase, "while I have you here"? That's such a useful expression. It means since we're already talking, and it's perfect for asking additional questions without starting a completely new conversation.
Brilliant observation. Now let's talk about something interesting the employee mentioned. They reorganized the store layout. This is super common in supermarkets, and it's good to know this vocabulary. You might also hear renovated, rearranged, or updated the floor plan.
Speaking of vocabulary, there were some excellent B2 level words in there. Specialty ingredients, dietary restrictions, operating hours, and exclusive digital coupons. These are exactly the terms you'll encounter in real shopping situations.
And here's something crucial. Notice how Sarah asked about store hours. She said, "What are your operating hours?" instead of, "When do you close?" The first one sounds more professional and shows better English skills.
Absolutely. And the employee's response was just right, too. He gave complete information, opening and closing times, plus special hours for different departments. That's very typical in North American and British supermarkets.
Here's a useful tip for situations like this. Do use phrases like, "I'm looking for," "Could you help me locate?" or "Do you happen to know if?" These sound polite and natural.
And don't be too direct or demanding. Never say things like "I need this now" or "find this for me." Also, avoid saying "I want." It's better to say "I'm looking for" or "I need to find."
Here's another interesting detail. Sarah said, "I'm impressed by how well you know the store layout." That's a lovely compliment. Showing appreciation for good service is always welcome, and it often leads to even better help.
Exactly. And notice the employee used most definitely instead of just yes. Native speakers often use emphatic responses like this, along with absolutely or for sure. It makes you sound more enthusiastic and natural.
Let's talk about typical supermarket phrases you should memorize for asking directions. Where can I find? Is there a section? Could you point me toward? These are much better than just, where is?
And for employees helping you, you'll often hear, it's located in aisle. You'll find it next to, just head down this way, it's right around the corner. These directional phrases are super useful.
Here's something really important. Sarah asked about promotions by saying, do you happen to know if you're running any promotions? The phrase, do you happen to know, is incredibly polite and sounds very natural. It's much better than are there any sales?
And the employee mentioned digital coupons and a mobile app. This is very current vocabulary. Modern shopping involves a lot of technology, so terms like scan, download, points, and rewards are essential.
One more thing. Did you notice how they ended the conversation? Both said take care, which is a friendly, casual way to say goodbye. Other good options are have a great day, enjoy your shopping, or simply see you later.
Great! And remember, listeners, confidence is key. Even if you make small mistakes, being polite and friendly will always work in your favor. Store employees are usually very patient with non-native speakers.
Absolutely. Practice these phrases at home, and don't be afraid to use them. Shopping is actually a great way to practice English because the conversations follow predictable patterns.
That's so true. And remember, every conversation is practice. The more you use these expressions, the more natural they'll become.
You've got this now, listeners. Let's move on to the second conversation. Let's go.
What a delightful coffee shop conversation. That interaction between the customer and Marcus felt so natural and friendly. Did you notice how it started, Jim?
Absolutely. The customer opened with a compliment. This place smells absolutely amazing, which is such a great conversation starter. It's positive, engaging, and shows genuine interest in the environment. That's a perfect way to begin any casual interaction.
Exactly. And then she asked, is this your first time working here? That's brilliant because it shows she's observant and creates an immediate connection. When you're building relationships with service staff, showing that you notice and care about them as individuals makes all the difference.
I loved Marcus's response, too. He shared just enough personal information. I've been here for about 6 months, and I just transferred from the evening shift without oversharing. That's perfect customer service communication. He was friendly but maintained professional boundaries.
Now let's talk about asking for recommendations. The customer said, what would you recommend for someone who loves strong coffee but wants to try something different? This is so much better than just saying, what's good here? She gave specific information about her preferences, which helped Marcus give a targeted suggestion.
And Marcus's response was exceptional. He didn't just list menu items, he explained the process. We steep it for 16 hours and describe the flavors like chocolate and berry notes. When you're working in customer service, providing context and details shows expertise and helps customers make confident decisions.
Learn some essential coffee shop vocabulary our listeners should know. Cold brew, single origin, pour over, steep, and roastery. These terms are commonly used in modern coffee culture, especially in specialty shops. Don't be intimidated by them. They're just part of coffee terminology.
I also noticed the customer asked a practical question. How long does a pour-over typically take? This shows great time management skills. When you're in a hurry, it's perfectly fine to ask about timing. Marcus handled it beautifully by offering alternatives and asking about her schedule.
The phrase, I'm intrigued by, is sophisticated vocabulary that our B2 and C1 listeners should definitely use. It sounds much more natural than I'm interested in and shows genuine curiosity. Other similar expressions include I'm drawn to or that catches my attention.
Let's discuss compliments and appreciation. The customer said, "You really know your coffee," and later, "I'm always impressed by the quality." Giving genuine compliments creates positive interactions and often leads to better service. But remember to be specific and authentic, not generic.
Something interesting happened when the customer asked about the business model. Do you roast your own beans here? This shows engagement beyond just ordering. When you ask about how businesses operate, it demonstrates genuine interest and often leads to more meaningful conversations. And Marcus shared information about their local partnership, which is very common in community-focused businesses. Vocabulary like local roastery, signature blends, and distinctive are great for describing unique business practices. This type of conversation helps you understand local culture too.
The personal questions were handled perfectly. The customer asked, "Do you live in this neighborhood?" And Marcus shared appropriate details about moving from Seattle and enjoying the community. This shows how casual conversations can become more personal while staying comfortable for both people.
I love the cultural exchange aspect. The customer shared her local knowledge, born and raised, and I've watched this area transform, while Marcus offered an outsider's perspective. This type of conversation happens constantly in multicultural communities and helps build understanding between different backgrounds.
Let's talk about sensory language. The customer said, "Oh my goodness, that aroma is incredible." Using sensory descriptions like aroma, divine, and appreciating chocolate notes makes conversations more vivid and engaging. Don't just say it's good, describe what you experience.
The ending was perfect too. Marcus mentioned the weekend special, a lavender honey latte, which keeps customers engaged and gives them a reason to return. The customer responded enthusiastically, which encourages future interactions. Both people left the conversation feeling positive and connected.
Here are some key phrases for coffee shop interactions. What would you recommend? How long does that take? Could I get that warmed up? What's that in the display case? These are much more natural than just pointing and saying, "I want that one."
And for complimenting service, you really know your stuff. Thanks for the recommendation. You've made my morning. These expressions show appreciation and create positive relationships with service providers.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of Jim and Wendy. We've just explored two incredibly useful conversations that happen in everyday life: shopping at the supermarket and ordering at a coffee shop.
I hope you noticed how much practical vocabulary and natural expressions we covered today. From asking for help politely to making small talk with service staff, these conversations show you exactly how English is used in real-world situations.
The key takeaway from today's episode is this: successful conversations aren't just about perfect grammar or extensive vocabulary. They're about being genuinely interested in other people, showing appreciation for good service, and creating positive interactions wherever you go.
Exactly. Both Sarah and Marcus were successful communicators because they were polite, specific about their needs, asked thoughtful questions, and showed genuine appreciation. These social skills are just as important as language skills when it comes to effective communication.
Let's recap some essential strategies for daily conversations. First, always start with polite phrases like "excuse me," "could you help me," or "I was wondering if." Second, be specific about what you need rather than being vague. Third, show interest in the people helping you. They're human beings, not just service providers.
And remember to use those wonderful expressions we highlighted. While I have you here, I'm intrigued by "do you happen to know?" And what would you recommend? These phrases make your English sound natural and sophisticated.
Don't forget about the cultural aspects either. In English-speaking countries, small talk with service staff is completely normal and appreciated. Asking about their day, complimenting their knowledge, or sharing brief personal information creates friendly connections and often leads to better service.
This week, we encourage you to practice the phrases we discussed today. Try repeating them out loud, use them in your own example sentences, or imagine how you'd use them in real situations. The more you practice, the more natural they'll feel. We also want to remind you that making mistakes is completely normal and expected when learning a language. Both characters in today's conversations would have been patient and helpful even if the customers had made grammatical errors or used incorrect vocabulary. The important thing is communication and connection.
Speaking of connection, we love hearing from our listeners. Send us your own conversation experiences, questions about specific situations, or suggestions for future episodes.
For our next episode, we'd love to hear from you. What topics would you like us to cover? Maybe phone conversations, daily situations, or something else you're curious about. Please share your suggestions so we can bring you the content that's most useful for you.
Until then, keep practicing, keep listening, and most importantly, keep having conversations. Remember, every interaction is an opportunity to improve your English and connect with others.
Thanks for joining us today on Jim and Wendy. We're so proud of your commitment to learning English, and we're here to support you every step of the way.
Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Happy learning!